Hello, friends. It's Amy Calandrino, and I'm coming to you with another episode of the Performance Mindset Podcast. I have with me today my friend, Chad Griffiths, and I've been on his podcast, and now he's in the hot seat, which is pretty super cool. And gotten to know him through online commercial real estate. He's really active on Twitter and all the different channels. He has a super cool YouTube channel. And so he is a broker. He's a SIOR and a CCIM like myself, which means he is a ninja in commercial real estate. And I'll let him tell you a little bit more about himself, how he got into it. But I'm super happy to have with me today, Chad.
Yeah, well, I'm super happy to be here. It's an honor to be on your show. And you're one of the people that I've had the pleasure of getting to know originally on social media, but then getting to know outside of social media as well, which that is, in my mind, the main benefit, the main perk, I guess, of social media is to kind of cultivate some relationships online and then to have those go even further outside of the digital sphere that we all seem to get tethered to. So it was honored to meet you in person. Are you going to New York as well?
I haven't gotten an invitation yet. Have you?
No, I just got one yesterday. Have you reached out to Bob?
Yeah, but I kind of did to Don, but he told me the date for it before anybody knew the date for it. So I kind of feel like, why would you tell someone you're not going to invite to an event? Like, hey, by the way, put this on your calendar if I wasn't going to be invited.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of weird. But I might follow up again. We'll see. So
I think it's worth following up. It could be great to have you there too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a hoot and a holler, and I do cool things in commercial real estate and stuff. So yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, but it's been really good to get to know you, and hopefully I'll see you there. And then also CREi Summit. It's going to be kind of closer to you than normal. So Palm Springs, California. I think you should be able to kind of come to that.
We actually have a direct flight there, and it's 2.5 hours. So yes, that is on my list to come this year.
Did you know I'm program co-chair?
Oh, are you really?
Yeah. So for you, those of you not in the commercial real estate industry, CREi Summit is commercial real estate influencers, although the I could mean implementer, innovator, all these different things. And we are going, it's our 5th birthday this year. And we go into social media, how to utilize it. Also, we're going to go into TV media, YouTube, podcasting, all the different channels to really get your marketing across. And it's going to be epic. Like, we should be posting in April, probably our draft agenda for the event in September. So like way ahead of normal, like almost 6 months ahead. And it's really awesome. And then the other folks that might not know, there's a real estate gala put together by Strip Mall Book Guy, Don Tepman. And then it's also hosting along with Bob Knackle, Beth Azor. And then is there Justin Pugh, the former football player turned podcasting real estate guru guy. So, yeah.
And Emmett Smith, the former Cowboy great. Yeah.
All right, fine. I will. I just don't want to ask, but it's okay.
I had no shame at all. I messaged Bob, I messaged Don. It's an epic event. So they're both sales guys, right? They know this inside and out. I interviewed Bob last week, actually, and he said that one of his most successful clients that he ever had, he called them 25 to 30 times before he got a hold of them. So Bob will appreciate the outreach.
I'll do it. And it just so happens I postponed my book launch to April, so I'll be fresh off of that by May 1st. So I have my big launch party on my birthday, April 24th. So
very cool.
Yeah, so it's been pretty close. So yeah, it's been really good to get to know you and get to know other people. It's been really awesome.
Yeah, I think that really is the perk of social media. If all people use social media for is just being online, it's actually a pretty lonely place. But when you actually have met people in person and then you're having that interaction going forward, it's so much more impactful.
Do you know one of our sessions has to do with mind over media and talking about like mental health of like social media. And it's so interesting. Yeah. If you are just a keyboard warrior and you're just like a keyboard warrior out there and none of this is translating into anything real or any real relationships, yeah, that is a weird space to be.
That's a depressing place to be. It's no surprise that anybody that is doing that is unhappy or unsatisfied with Rosie. Some people don't go on there for business development or sales. They're just going on there to share ideas. And I think that that's fine. But if somebody is going on there and they're trying to meet new people and they're trying to cultivate more business, if they're not outreaching and even just a call, even just having a Zoom call, which is so easy to do, have a 15-minute Zoom call, just introduce yourself and say hi. That goes such a big difference. But next time you post on something that they or comment on something they post, or they comment on something you post, there's already more of a connection there than just being a digital avatar. So that's the number one thing that I'd recommend to somebody on social media is put the social in it. It's you have to make some time to actually connect with people, and doing it in person is the best. That's why I love the gala. SIOR events have been awesome because I've met so many SIORs through Twitter and LinkedIn that to meet them in person, you already have a little bit of that connection. That is the easiest way in my mind to put fuel on the fire of the social media engine, is to try and meet people in person.
And it's really cool when someone's very similar to how you think they're going to be, like in real person. And like, then, you know, like, oh, that's super cool. Like I hung out with a bunch of people at the ReTwit, real estate Twitter, Guns and Grits, and was one of the ladies invited. I still have a little bit of an injury from the gun, but that was really fun and just a really good time.
And that is, I had the fortune of going last year, and I couldn't go this year for various reasons, mostly to do with kids' sports, but I loved it. That was probably top 3 highlight of 2024 for me, was going to that Grits and Guns. Ken is a absolute master host. He's
a master host.
He's the best.
Southern hospitality to its core.
Just incredible. Yeah. If Ken ever invites you to anything, just say yes. You will not regret it. He is world class at that. And but you're, like you said, all the people there, everyone's got this similar outlook, and everyone's most people, I'd suppose, are optimistic. You might get the odd one that's maybe had a bad day or something, but most people are pretty happy and happy-go-lucky, and they just want to share ideas. And the one thing that I've noticed about the commercial real estate industry in general too is that almost everybody is very open to sharing what's worked or ideas that they have or suggestions, because we all grew up getting that from other people. So when I'm about 20 years in the business, when I first started, I had tons of people that helped me and encouraged me and gave me tips and shared things to do. So for me to not help somebody else in it would be very narrow-sighted. And I think a lot of people have that mentality that you go to an event in commercial real estate, whether it's SIOR or Guns and Grits or whatever it is, everybody's very approachable and eager to share information and data. It's a remarkable industry. I absolutely love it.
I mean, I was out shooting guns with Nick Ihorn and Brandon Avedikian, some other folks. And then I'm like, okay, I have this like roadblock on one of my listings that I've had forever. And the guy has a blanket mortgage, 2 different LLCs, 2 different units. And it's like, what do you like? Have you seen a bank do a partial release? Like, how do I navigate this? Or like, how do I deal with it? And it's just very like, and they're like, yeah. And like, it's like, okay. Cause I hadn't known, like, that's some random thing. Like most of the time you have one mortgage per property, or, you know, I guess there could be, you know, a package mortgage, I guess, but I haven't dealt with like one and then someone not trying to sell their whole portfolio, instead trying to sell one without the other. And it's like, how does that like work? And so I think there's power in it. And so like clients are like, she's spending all this time with all these people and I am getting better. Like, and also I'm a happier, better person. Like I got a new listing. I worked on like 7 LOIs in between it. I mean, I just came back like refreshed and happy as could be. So it's been a really productive week so far.
Yeah, it was the exact same experience that I had from it as well. And they don't gain anything from it. They're just eager to help. And that's just the awesome thing about this business is you could call Bob Knackle. Bob Knackle would probably take somebody's phone call or at least schedule a time to talk with them,
Yeah.
even if he has no idea who they are. So it's an awesome industry, but it takes work, right? That's the biggest thing that I would say to anyone in the business is that it's still work. Yes, people are going to be willing to talk to you and they'll spend time with you, but they're not going to call you. Bob Knackle is not just going to call somebody in Kansas City that he doesn't know and say, hey, here's a pep talk. But if that person called Bob, he's probably going to take that call. So it takes work. It's just like social media. It's a great place to be, but you have to spend a little bit of time and a little bit of effort to get the most out of it.
Well, it was so surprising. Bob Knackle is like the titan of investment sales in New York City, and he's amazing. I met him when I was pregnant, but it was a million years ago. And then I got to see him again with my first one. And then I got to see him at CREi in Orlando. And then he heard I had a podcast and he's like, I got to be on your podcast. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. Like, and then he's like, and then he found out I was going to be in New York City. So I got to see the original map room while it was like still super secret. And that was really super cool to do. And then I've been inspired by his like quarterly bulletin that he does. And I have actually been getting business from sending a hand, like hard paper mailer bulletin. So I call it the Beyond Bulletin after Beyond commercial. And I mailed it to him because I was so proud of myself. I'm like, oh God, I did the bulletin. And he called me and he gave me a pep talk though. And he said, Amy, like, this is great that you did this bulletin, but you better get it out every single time without fail. Otherwise, this just doesn't mean anything. And I'm 3 editions in, about to be 4. So it's great when someone else, and then now people have asked me how to do it. And then I'm happy to help because there's nothing proprietary there. Like, you still have to put in the work, putting together a bulletin and writing a 10-page bulletin with like a market update, a founder's message. That's no easy task. And curating the list and all those, that's not easy.
No, it's work. And I think that's the beautiful part about commercial real estate is it's a meritocracy. What you put in is directly proportionate to what you get out. And if you want to put the time in, you will have success, but it does take work. And it's to that extent, you almost have to treat it like you're a business owner. Even if you're just an individual broker in your office, you are a business owner and you're in charge of business development and you're in charge of client relations and you're in charge of data organization, you're in charge of filing, you're in charge of all of that. It's you running a business inside of it. And if someone isn't prepared to put that elbow grease in and really commit to working hard, it's very challenging. But if they are willing to do that, it's an awesome industry.
I've heard many people say you live for years 6 to 10. Like, it's just like everything just happens much more like automatically. Is that kind of what you found as well?
Yeah, I have a very cheesy analogy that I use is that it's the equivalent of a rocket ship taking off. It just takes so much fuel and energy and propulsion and everything. All the systems have to be aligned, so much manpower. Everything has to be perfectly coordinated to get that rocket off the ground. But once it hits cruising altitude, it's cruising. It doesn't need nearly that same amount of work. So it's front loaded. You have to, that first 5 years is a grind. And that's why a lot of people fail. But the ones that do make it through, I agree. I think years 6 and beyond can become a very, very lucrative for a broker.
Well, that leads me to what is usually my first question, but I love this. We kind of like jumped all back in and you're like, you're now 20 years in. How did you get into commercial real estate brokerage? And like, what is it that you do now and where are you located? And
I completely stumbled into it. I was buying and selling some houses with a couple of friends of mine, pretty much kind of out of university. That's another story that's goes off on a different tangent. So let's just say out of university, trying to buy and sell some houses. We cobbled together what little money that we had and basically just tried flipping houses. And we made zero money, even though we put a ton of work and a ton of time and risk into it. But I got the itch for real estate at the time. So I ended up starting in residential in 2004 and just realized I didn't see a future in that. So I moved to commercial in 2005. And I thought I'd be doing office towers or shopping centers or really cool investment deals. And just so happened the office was heavily concentrated in industrial. So by complete default, I stumbled into industrial, knowing nothing about it, but just fell in love with it right away. It's just the variety and getting to walk through factories and buildings and seeing things being made, and just the backbone of the economy. Really, everything flows through multiple industrial buildings. So just to see everybody, all the different players in the space and how people were trying to make it work, just fell in love with it. So that's fast forward 20 years that I've been working in industrial, and I started buying properties myself with partners in 2014. So call it 11 years now that I've been adding properties. And then YouTube during the pandemic, when the world shut down, I get pretty antsy if I'm just sitting still. So I had to do something.
I have a to-do list on the weekend myself. Yeah.
So I just can't sit still. Me on the beach is the worst thing in the world because I get so antsy. So decided to start a podcast and YouTube channel in 2020, all on industrial. And it's been great. I honestly can't think of something that I would like to have done over the last 20 years more than working in industrial real estate.
You are how many episodes in on your podcast?
Oh, probably close to 200 now. I should have actually kept track because that would be a good number to know. But I'm guessing it's probably close to 200 now. Yeah,
I started my podcast. First episode dropped March of 2022, so it's my third year now.
How many are you at?
I was only at every other week cadence, so I'm approaching 80 now because I'm a weekly cadence this year.
That's impressive. Congratulations. So 100 will be a big deal.
I think I hit 100 this year. Yeah, I'll hit 100 for sure this year. Yeah. And this year I've kind of leveled up because, obviously I've stayed really busy with brokerage. I have I hired someone to do a manager. So basically I do invite the guests myself because I want to curate that. I haven't let go of control of that. And I only want who I want on the show. And then but after that, she'll send your follow-up email and let you know that everything, and here's all the links. And I have another guy that edits everything, puts it all together. And so it's now very because I knew that was the only way I was going to be able to manage weekly. Because I made top 5% globally, and now my goal is top 2.5%, and then maybe next year 1%.
Congratulations! That's huge for only two and a bit years old. That's huge. Congratulations!
Thank you. It's so fun. I really do love it. I think what it is I love creating. And that's one reason why commercial real estate does not bore me is that you're constantly no deal, no LOI, no transaction is exactly the same. Everything. And there's always in every transaction, I find that there's some roadblock that you need some key to unlock the door to move forward. You could think everything's smooth sailing. This is awesome. But then something weird comes up, whether it's insurance or someone forgot to prepare the lease back or whatever it is. And then you got to figure out how do you solve that and make everything go nice and smooth.
Yeah, there's no two deals that are even close to the same. Everything is wildly different. Like you said, and there's always curveballs of something that you can't even expect coming that you just have to deal with at the 11th hour. It does take a lot of creativity to get deals done in this business.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It definitely does. So where are you located?
I'm in Western Canada.
Yes.
I don't know do you know Canada that well?
Yeah.
Straight north of Montana, pretty much, in a city called Edmonton. So we're about 1 million people, give or take. So it'd be, I don't know, a medium-sized city, I suppose, in the U.S. Heavy industrial area, given the city size. We're similar to Texas and maybe some other oil-producing states that's our main industry is oil and gas. So heavily focused on supporting that industry. So lots of industrial real estate, lots of manufacturing space, tons of factories. That's the bread and butter of our industry for sure.
Yeah, my maiden name is Ami Marie Guy, and a lot of my family hail from Quebec, came down to, or Quebec, as you would say if you're from there, not Quebec, as Americans would say. But they came down to Vermont, and I'm originally from like the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont. So yeah. So, but I go to Quebec a lot, and but I haven't been to other parts of Canada. However, I'm going to fix that this year. Planning on going through like Niagara Falls and stuff with my kids. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, and we're gonna fly to see my brother in Michigan, and then drive through Canada. So at least do a little bit more of that side of Canada, and then eventually, I do want to do the entire Canadian Railroad. I love riding in a train. You say that you go crazy sitting on a beach. I do feel like I have two sides of me. Like I'm super hyperactive, like, but then there's moments where I do just want to chill, like, and read a book, or like, you know, so I just like being on a train, whether it's like listening to music, reading, knitting, thinking. I am doing something while I'm on the train, but I want to do the whole entire train across Canada.
It's so funny you bring that up. I was just talking to someone earlier today who lives in the States, and they did that train through the Canadian Rockies, starting in one city kind of similar north of Montana and going all the way to the coast to Vancouver. They were just talking about that, and she said it was one of the most amazing things she ever did. So that's so funny. I just like an hour ago was talking to her about that. So
I'm going to do it through the Alps in the spring of next year.
That'd be so crazy.
Mm-hmm. I'm going through the train through the Alps. Yeah.
Have you been to Niagara Falls before?
No.
It is incredible. We just went there as a family last summer, actually, and I've been a couple times. It is awesome. If you have the chance, or make the chance, to do the Maids of the Mist, I think it has a new name now. They changed it, but it's basically the ferry that
goes like under it or something, right?
Yeah, it goes like right into the mist. It is crazy. It's something that you can't even explain until you're in it. It's just well worth the price. Like if there was one thing to do in Niagara Falls, that'd be the main thing I'd say to do.
Oh, I'm totally going to do it. I sometimes travel. My husband's an attorney. And we do a couple family vacations, sometimes 3, but I love to travel all the time. And the good thing about commercial real estate is, I don't know about you, but I do find that, you know, a lot of times I can do everything wherever I want to be. Like, as long as I have someone to open up the door, I can still manage the strategy. So I like to take off a good bit of time during the summer, and my husband cannot do that. He has to be at his computer at court and all those things. So I work a lot, but usually it's when the kids go down, or I'll ask someone at the front desk at the hotel to watch my kids and then go travel. I seriously do. Yeah. So
it's a good idea.
It's fine. Like, you know, $20 an hour cash. Can you like watch the kids and you can just, if you have focus time, like they do in Europe, where like the Europeans don't work like Americans do, and other people do in other parts of the West, you know, the Western part of the world, Western civilization. Like, we are like workaholics, but you know, Europeans, they get up, they relax, have a cup of coffee, and then there's focused 2 hours work. Then they have lunch and then siesta, and then focused a couple hours of work. And then they go out and socialize, and they're super productive. And I notice if I kind of do the same thing and I'm very diligent, I can get away with traveling and stuff. And I still traveled a lot of February, and I still closed 6 deals last month. So,
wow.
Yeah. So,
what's your travel this year? You want to do the train ride through the Alps, Niagara Falls?
So this year I'm doing, I did Charlevoix in Quebec. That's north of Quebec City. And we skied there, and then I got back, and then I did the trip with Ken. And then I am going to New York with my family anyways, like in June. And then again, I'm planning on taking my kids Michigan over to Vermont via Niagara Falls. I don't know if I'll do the fall trip. Maybe we'll do another like Disney staycation, which is always fun. We're annual pass holders.
And then Palm Springs.
Oh yeah, Palm Springs. Oh, and then I'm going out to Beth Azor's investment conference. I'm sure I'll go to some other conferences this year and stuff like that. I try not to be gone too long. My kids really do miss me when I'm gone. So yeah. And they're like clung on the hip, which is great. Like, I love them. So I like to spend as much time with them as I possibly can. So
yeah, I'm the same way.
How many children do you have?
I've got 2 boys, 11 and 14. And so they're getting a bit older now, but they still enjoy spending time with us. So we try to take advantage of that as much as possible, because it won't be long until they want to do their own thing and they're out living their own lives. So yeah, I try to take advantage of it as much as possible as well.
Yeah, my kids are Giovanni's 5 and Giulietta is soon to be 4, and they are 16 months apart. So
Wow.
it is
Juliet is a beautiful name. I love it.
named after the Alfa Romeo Giulietta, and her middle name is Abigail, named after a race car driver. Daddy completely picked her name. And do you know Abigail means daddy's girl? So he planned it all out. So you're in Canada, and I started to see some memes flying about all the tariffs, and Canada's going to be the 51st state, and all this stuff. How do you feel about all this? I mean, you're an industrial. What do you think the impact is going to be? Is it too early to say, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's too early to say, but I have no idea. For 20 years that I've been in this business, I'd like to think that I can make some forecasts and say, well, this is what the year is going to look like. There's always something. There's something that comes that you're just not prepared for, that has major implications, either globally or nationally or even in your own city. It's impossible to really make forecasts or predictions. If I were to guess, though, I think that it's a lot of noise right now, and I don't suspect that, and again, I could be just way wrong on this. I don't suspect that the tariffs are gonna stick around long, and even if they do, I think for the most part the economy just absorbs it. There'll probably be some pain in certain sectors, and certain companies will probably really feel the impacts, but I don't think it's going to be the exact panic button that a lot of people are predicting, especially the media and politicians. They're latching onto this like it's going to be detrimental and it's scorched earth type of a scenario. I just don't see it. If anything, I mean, if we really do look at the economy as an open system, that money that gets collected as tariffs or tax revenue, however it gets allocated, that money should flow back into the system. Otherwise, it's just complete waste, right? If it goes to government bureaucracy, or it gets just bottlenecked and bogged down in government programs and stuff, then that could be a problem. But if it really is just a revenue generation system and it balances out, perhaps people aren't paying as much in income tax because it gets offset by tariffs, well, that's still going to cycle back into the economy. So really what I'd be concerned about is if the system just comes with a lot of waste and it doesn't flow back in and get offset by lower income taxes or lower any level of taxation, really, then I think it kind of, and I could be way off on this. This is just kind of how I'm interpreting it. But I'm not concerned right now for those two reasons. One, I think it's a negotiating tactic right now.
Yeah.
We've always had tariffs at different levels. There's tariffs right now between the two countries.
Right.
So I don't think they're going to stay in their current form. I think it's a negotiating tool right now. And then I also think that even if it does happen, it's a cycle. So long as there's not waste. And I think they're trying to deal with that with the Department of Government Efficiency by cutting back the waste. But if it just flows through, then I don't know. It's ultimately, I don't know. It's a long answer short.
Well, it's almost like a real estate deal. Is like, I think how many real estate deals have you been involved with where you're like a couple weeks out from closing and it's like, how the hell is this ever going to close? Like, and I think right now the media is hyping this up as like, oh my God, Canada and America, they could never be friends again. This is not going to work out. This is like the end of the world. But then, calmer minds prevail, and, some backroom conversations happen, some things figure out, and people figure out how to make it work. And I think what needs to be figured out is like, what does America need? What does Canada need? And like, how do we make these trades and, tariffs work together? And I think they just need to figure this out like a math equation.
Yeah.
I think it is posturing and negotiating right now. And it's just to get people into the seat, which we kind of do in commercial real estate. It's not live.
And it's a good way of describing it as a math equation, because that's how I look at it as well. There's no sense feeling personally upset about it in my mind, because it's business, it's
Right.
countries,
It
but
is.
they're making essentially business decisions. They're not saying, Amy, I'm going to come into your house, I'm going to take all your books off your bookshelf, or they're not coming into
Better
my
not.
house and saying, yeah, better not. They're not trying to come and saying they're taking away my mic. They're just saying we're trying to make the best decisions we can for our individual countries. And how do you dispute that? I mean, that's what a country should be trying to do. Is they
Right.
should be trying to look after their own people first. If anything, our countries and countries all over the world are probably guilty of trying to do too much outside of their own borders when they should be trying to focus more inwards. So the one thing that saddens me about all of this actually is not that one country's trying to do something at the expense of others, because I think it really just does come down to making business decisions, but seeing the relationships start to wither between Canada and the US, which we've been such great neighbors for so long, that to hear somebody booing or crowd booing at a sporting event between Canada and the US, I think that's one of the most disrespectful things that somebody can do, is to boo another anthem from another country.
Yeah,
And then
I would agree.
People can do whatever they want. I'm not the moral police, but I do think that is, I think that's just a terrible thing to do. I'll never boo another country's anthem. And just that the relationship strain, I think that's the tough part, because there are a lot of people that are taking this very personally, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm never buying American bourbon again," or someone might say, "We're not buying maple syrup from Canada because of that." When those decisions have real impacts on people that are making and producing those. For me, I'm somewhat agnostic on it because I'm not making maple syrup and I'm not making bourbon or any of the things that people are saying that they're boycotting. But that does sadden me, because I really do think that the media and politicians are making this out to be something so much more than it is. And that's putting a strain on relationships between two countries that have had really good, strong relationships. So that's what I think is the worst part about all of this. The economics will figure it out. If it causes some economic pain and one country feels it more than the other, countries are pretty resilient, and we've gone through a lot of stuff in history and have found a way through it. Look at World War II. People were like, hundreds of thousands of people were dying, and the economy was completely disrupted.
Oh, yeah.
Just absolute chaos, and countries came through from that. So to think that tariffs are all of a sudden going to be...
we're just over 100 years removed from World War I, and the conclusion of World War II was just 80 years ago. Mm-hmm. So wait, what year did World War I end? Wasn't like 1918?
World War I was 1919, I believe.
1919. Okay.
It could have been 18. I guess it depends on when the official end was. Yeah, it's just over 100 years, and World War II ended in 45.
So 80 years in May, I think. Yeah.
So, I mean, if our countries can get through crazy times like that,
and this is nothing that big.
This is nothing. I don't want to diminish and make it seem like it really is nothing, because there will be people that have pain on this, and there will be casualties for businesses for sure. But in the grand scheme of things, this is just a blip like this. So that's why I really have become distrustful of the media is they just try to propagate this to be something monumental when I think it's going to be short-lived. And even if it isn't short-lived, we're a very resilient two countries. And I think the two countries will adapt and they'll adjust, and there'll be another issue 6 months from now. This is just the issue of the day. Everyone wants to be an expert in something. So you hear people that have no economic knowledge whatsoever that are all of a sudden tariff experts. And it's there's always something. That's the one thing I've learned in 20 years. There's always something. And just right now it's tariffs.
Well, yeah, you're tied to the fuel industry. I mean, that's really up and down. We talked about that before, but interesting. I was just thinking to myself, listening to you chat, is, and this podcast is all about like mindset. Is like, I think folks would really do themselves a favor, like separating themselves from not getting personally jazzed up like on these political things. I mean, it's fracturing families, it's fracturing, relationships, and ultimately, you should put people over politics and the relationships. And yeah, I'm glad that you're still happy to toast some. You introduced a new drink to me. What is it called? Like a Kentucky whiskey? Wait, what was it?
Oh, bourbon.
Yeah, but it was like it was a sour. It was a different version.
Oh,
Yeah,
was it whiskey sour?
it was a whiskey sour, but it was done in a different way that you showed me. Anyways, but it doesn't matter. But like, we'll still be toasting, right? That's the pose. We just not
absolutely.
like all this can be stuff be going on, and everybody could be bickering at each other and all this stuff. But I think you'll be in a happier place in life if you can separate yourself from these, and also realize we've actually chatted a little bit about at my church is like separating yourself from like the permanent stuff is like the love and people's beliefs and people's relationships versus these other things that kind of fade. And like my church has done like gone over to like Ireland, and like people really kind of regret like the fractured relationships and stuff that happened over those like religious conflicts that they had, and the conflicts that they had, and they wish they had it. And so like I don't want this to be the kind of same situation between US and Canada or whatever it is that we have this going on, but like later on people are regretful and remorseful, like wish I wouldn't have defriended this person because of this thing that's not permanent. These things will all change.
That's the only constant is change, and it
Right.
will always happen. I think people, and I'm guilty of this too, so I don't even want to generalize and just say that it's other people, because I'm for sure have done it. But I think that there's a tendency to internalize way too much and to take everything as either a personal attack on your values or on your character or on your belief system, when in all reality, most people aren't trying to do that, for one thing, and they've got their own problems. So if somebody does feel offended by something that someone else says or something that they do, they're offended by terrorists, they're offended that America's trying to get a better deal for their own citizens, which the gall, can you imagine that America's trying to make life better for Americans? If that somehow offends somebody, and it could go the other way too. I'm sure that there's people on both sides that are pointing fingers. But if you start embracing that mentality, then you're almost taking that victimhood approach where somebody offended you. So now you're a victim. So now you deserve to be outraged, and you deserve, or sad. There's also a complex different emotions on what someone might do after they get offended. But there's nothing valuable that comes from that. None of those are productive. None of those make you happier. None of those do good for your business life or your professional or your family life. There's no good that comes from it. So and again, I've been offended by what people have said in the past, and I'm sure I'll be offended again, but I really do. And on this tariff situation being one, I have zero offense on it, like absolutely zero, because first of all, I can't do anything about it anyways. And I understand the motives of it. I just understand why they're doing it. It's a business decision or a political decision, however you want to look at it. I get it. I understand why it's happening, and they will evolve and it will change. But to say, because of this, I'm going to go boo their national anthem or I'm going to boycott certain goods, like that's just, in my mind, that's such a narrow-minded approach to something that is so complex. Our country's 200 plus years, give or take, of all this evolution and political discourse and just the system evolving. To think that there aren't always going to be complex problems that we have to work through, does that just mean that we're always going to be offended and take offense at everything that happens just because it doesn't make us happy? I take the approach, if it's here, then it's here, and if there's pain, then there's pain. But moping about it and complaining about it and whining and feeling offended and going on Twitter and typing, being a keyboard warrior, there's just no productive way to do that. And it's so detrimental to mental health that I just think your time is so much better off focus on what you can do. So could our business struggle? Sure. Could our economy collapse? Sure. Could the whole industry that I work in run into problems? That's also a possibility. But what can I do? Because complaining about it isn't going to do anything. So what can I do? That'd be the approach that I could take, is stop being so easily offended, not get too focused on things that I can't control anyways, and focus on like this. Like, I would much rather have a conversation with you than going on Twitter and complaining about tariffs. This to me is infinitely more productive and enjoyable than just moping about. So there's plenty of things people can do. I kind of get on a little bit of a soapbox on this because I think it's just so easy to complain.
Well, I do feel like there's a kind of people, and I think one thing though is even if you have a strong mindset, it can be hard to deal with those types of folks that have that victim mentality or want to tear you down. I mean, I started using this email system that like automates emails to help generate leads on my business, and I guess we were looking for coffee shops, and the AI picked up that there was this business called the Coffee Couture. And this lady called me. She's like, I got an email for my business and it said you were intimately familiar with me. And she's like, what business am I? And I'm like, I don't know. You're calling me on my cell phone. I'm not in front of my computer. She's like, my business is called Coffee. And it's not coffee. It's a wedding business. And I'm like, okay. So like, what are you like offended about? She's like, well, it said you were intimately familiar with my business and you're not. And just like all these other solicitors. And I'm like, all right. Duly noted, probably shouldn't be saying we're intimately familiar. We should just be saying like, hey, you're a retail business. This might be something you want to look at. We could probably do something like that. I'll go ahead and take your feedback. And she's like, well, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I'm like, I am not going to argue with you today. I have so many other things to do other than argue with you. But so if you want to go argue with someone else. I've taken your feedback. I totally appreciate your feedback. We are going to implement some operational changes and discuss this internally, but I bid you a nice day.
And that's all you can do, because I bet you that lady complains about everything. I bet you she's
probably a 1-star Google person.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
What is it with people? Like, what do not 2, 3s, and 4s exist? It's that's the all or nothing victim mindset thinking, though, too.
It is.
You ever notice that?
I've never left a 1-star review. I wouldn't go back to the business. That'd be it. But I'm not going to wreck their business by being that petty on it, because there's anomalies, right? Someone goes to a restaurant.
I left the 3-star. Like, I've done a 3-star, which I felt like was like a 1-star. Like, I felt terrible to do it, but I really tried hard to make it right with the business. And it was some kind of safety concern. I can't remember what it was, but it was something I felt like I had to say, like publicly or something. I can't remember what it was. It was something to do with a hotel, and it wasn't like somebody should know this before they go here. And I can't remember what it was, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, a 3-star is fair, right? Because there's really no 1-star business.
No.
They had a bad experience at one time. They went to a restaurant and their food was cold, and they leave a 1-star review. Well, that's not fair. That's not fair to the business. I mean, they made a mistake, but to say that it's a 1-star location based off one meal, it's petty, and it's that negative mentality of you're offended. You're offended by something, and you got to go on. You got to voice your concern like anybody actually cares. But it's just such a destructive and like those people are not happy. I just know that for a fact. The keyboard warriors, the ones that are getting into anonymous arguments, the ones that are complaining about everything, they're deeply unhappy people. And that's such a poor way to live. Just focus on things that you can actually control. Focus on things that actually make you happy. Get away from that negativity. There's nothing good that comes from it, and only bad.
Only bad. No, and it feeds on itself. I kind of find like if you're surrounding yourself with good, positive, growth-minded, performance mindset people, it builds on itself. It gets stronger and stronger. And then, but if you start to go down in the pits, you're just going to keep heading down that way. So yeah, it's interesting. But
yeah, it's a terrible cycle, and then you find other people that are miserable, and then you make each other more miserable, and then you have more things to complain about. It's just there's nothing good that comes from it.
Nothing good. So I refuse to be in that space. And like, I think, just again, surrounding myself with people and like working really hard on it. I wasn't like triggered. She was trying really hard to like trigger me. And I'm not letting myself be and I have people that post things like I'm some privileged white woman and, blah, blah, blah. But yes, I hired a house manager. And as soon as I started making enough money in my business, like that was the first thing I would much rather do business deals and put these amazing commercial real estate deals than do my laundry. I don't want to do it. So but sometimes I talk about it because I want to empower other women that if there's stuff they don't want to do and they have the money to hire someone else to do it, then go do it. Like, don't go, don't do something you don't want to, like, live your life to your full, capacity, enjoy yourself.
That should be the goal. That's what everybody should be striving towards.
Solo. So anyways, well, this was super fun. Oh my God. So, but we have to land the plane. So, is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
No, other than I just want to encourage you to reach out to Bob and Don, because I'd love to see you in New York.
It's on the list.
Perfect.
List. Okay. I'm going to do it right after this. So yeah, I got a solid hour before I have to go to some other things. So anyways, but this has been super fun. So how do people get a hold of you, Chad?
YouTube is great. My channel is at Industrialize, and on X or Twitter is also great. Just my handle at Chad Griffiths. Either one of those are awesome.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember when we first started connecting on Twitter, has been awesome. But yeah, this has been really cool. So yeah, hopefully I'll see you in New York and then also California.
Yes.
And all the things. It's going to be an amazing year. It's really shaping up that way. And we are still going to cheers each other and have a great time and have a strong mindset.
100%. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks to everybody for tuning in to another episode of Performance Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Calandrino, signing off.